Hey, what's up, Black Sheep Nation? We are here together once again for our episode 3. Today, we're sitting down to interrogate one of the most versatile Army leaders that we've had the pleasure to come across. Today, we're sitting down with Chief Warrant Officer 4, Michael Ryder. Mike is nearing retirement after service since 1997. He initially entered service as a cannon fire direction specialist, at the time a 13 Echo. He later reclassified to a 13 Fister, a 13 Fox, if you will. Chief Ryder has been deployed through the Middle East from Iraq to Syria upwards of 10 times. What makes his story truly special is his genuine commitment to his craft and those around him. He's impacted thousands of young warrants at the Warrant Officer Instruction Branch, and today we get to share a little of his story with you. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further delay, it is our honor to introduce to you Chief Warrant 4, Michael Ryder. Chief Ryder, welcome to the
Let's
show.
go, Chief. Let's go,
Hey,
Chief.
what's up, everybody? Joseph James, man, truly an honor and a privilege to be here on your podcast. A truly humbling experience just as well, right? I know a lot of guys are interested in seeing this. I've had multiple emails, phone calls, stuff like that as soon as you guys started posting it. So I'm truly excited, a little bit nervous because I get nervous sometimes, but I hate really talking about myself. But, it feels good to do so and share my experiences with everybody. So let's get this started.
Okay, so let me ask you straight off, what was like the driving force of your career? And also what made you like want to continue serving for almost 3 decades?
Really, the driving force, I think, is the people, right? Those men and women that are willing to sacrifice their own lives to go out there and fight and defend something that we truly believe in the United States of America. To be able to go out there and help those that are incapable of helping themselves, to make the world a better place. And at times, I think we succeeded in that, and at times I think we probably made some things worse. But to continue to do this for 30 years, and I think back at it, and really I had something to prove a little bit, because I know when I joined, a lot of guys said, "Oh man, you're going to get kicked out in 6 months. You're not going to make it," stuff like that. And now to say, "Hey, I'm retiring 30 years later," it's a great thing to be here. And it's the people, those friendships, those men and women that are out there that are willing to do it with us together.
You
I
know,
think
I,
that's gone.
I think to that point, as ex drill sergeants, I think back to that exact thing that you just said. Like you said, you had something to prove. A lot of times we have soldiers that come in when we're drill sergeants, and we try and find that extrinsic factor on how do we motivate them when they first come in. And one of the things is like, do you really want to quit on yourself? Do you want to go back home and tell everybody that told you that you couldn't do it? Do you want to prove them right? Do you want to go back home and just continue to flip burgers the way you were doing prior to coming here? And, what you just said is spot on. Like, you had something to prove, and here you are 30 years later, successful career, and, you've impacted thousands of people, and you've truly made a difference in a lot of people's lives throughout this career, my life included in that number. So, thank you for everything that you've done throughout this amazing career that you've had.
Well, something else that I also really like about it too is that you already had people that doubted you. So, and now that you're an exceptional leader, now you get the opportunity to see that in other individuals that are coming in. And now you get to affect change within them. Like, hey, I've been there, and we got to work through it together. And that's just another great leadership standpoint, that people that have that opportunity to prove other people wrong, then they get to see the younger generation come up and be like, oh, I see what is holding him back, or him or her back. And then you're able to affect change within that.
Yeah, I definitely. Actually, Joe, you know this, man. Like every Thursday here, and you have those new recruits that are getting ready to graduate out of basic training on that Friday afternoon or Friday morning. I always like engaging over at the EX, right? I go there, I see those soldiers that don't have family members there, and I sit down with them, try to have lunch with them, and be like, "Hey, why did you join? Why are you willing to sacrifice to replace old guys like me that've been doing it forever?" And those conversations just keep on driving me. I still talk to my drill sergeant to this day. I still talk to my recruiter to this day and thank them every year when I have my anniversary, right? Like I say, "Hey man, thanks for opening that door, seeing something in myself that I didn't like see at that time." being a 19-year-old kid. So really, it really drove me to try to just be the best that I can be, right? And that was our motto: "Be all you can be." When I joined in 1997.
Yeah, absolutely. So like during my retirement ceremony, when we had a group of soldiers that walked through to recite the Soldier's Creed, there was one soldier in particular that I was able to pinpoint that one specific soldier that was in the group, and I even pointed him out to Senior Lawson and told him like, if there's one soldier amongst all of those soldiers, that would be me 20
Yeah,
years ago. That would be the guy. And I was able to single that young man out just off of the way he presented himself, the way he said the soldier's creed, the way he carried himself, his demeanor. Just watching him, there's simple things that a soldier does early on in his career that you can tell right off the jump
yeah,
that, you know, a lot of times will tell the tale of, whether or not they have the potential to be successful or whether they might falter. But the bottom line is the company you keep will in the end keep you. And a lot of times when they leave basic training and AIT, the friends that they choose to surround themselves will ultimately dictate whether or not they succeed or whether they falter.
yeah, definitely.
So, Chief, you initially came in as a fire direction specialist, but then you reclassed to fire support. So, speaking from experience, I can tell you that during our time in Afghanistan, we were provisional infantry, and I can tell you that I got to see some exceptional 13 Foxes performing in the field. When we were with the 82nd, I got to see Sergeant LaChance. He was exceptional. And then during our time, our sister that was with us, absolutely exceptional. So how difficult was the transition for you going from a fire direction specialist to a fire support specialist?
For me personally, it really wasn't that hard of a transition. I reclassed as a fairly cherry sergeant. I think I'd been a sergeant for probably like 6 months when I reclassed a 13 Fox, went to AIT and then jump school and then off to the 82nd Airborne Division, right? I was like, oh yeah, man, I get to roll. I'm going to be a fister at Fort Observer with the grunts. Unfortunate for myself, I maxed my PT test at reception. And when the Devarty Sergeant Major came down to the reception, he was like, you, Sergeant, are coming with me up to Division FSC. And I was like, okay. He's like, yeah, man, you seem squared away. So we're going to put you in the Division Fire Support element. So that transition wasn't too bad. It was very cool understanding the upper echelons at the division level from fire support, going out there with those senior non-commissioned officers that were evaluating those fifth platoons, conducting, certification, so on and so forth, division artillery readiness test. So I was able to see that. So by the time I got down to an infantry company, I was already a staff sergeant. So I had no platoon at one time as a 13 Fox sergeant at all. I immediately went down and took a team in Alpha Company 2nd 504 over in the 82nd Airborne Division. We had deployed with the infantry company, not nothing high speed. It was a downtown Baghdad mission securing the green zone. So as a Fister, I wasn't really doing Fister stuff. We were sort of doing intelligence and passing over information and stuff like that to other agencies that were operating in the area at the time. And then when I became a battalion fire support NCO, because of my experiences, I think at the division level, and the very little experiences at the company level, it sort of made me understand what was needed, what was required from those higher echelons. So it made me that much better of a fire support NCO at the time. Fire support planning was always very easy. It's an art form, right? There's an art to it, just like the tactical side. I think building those relationships with the infantry brethren, that is very important, right? Understanding tactics, maneuver tactics, how fires can support to facilitate maneuver operations out there in the operational environment in the background or the battlefield of today's fight. So the transition wasn't really that hard. I think the mentality was a little bit easier or harder at times, understanding, hey, I'm not just the brains of the field artillery. I'm now the eyes of the field artillery too. And it really made me a better forward observer when I was out there on the OP and observing. And I was able to talk to the FDC and be like, hey, you guys are shooting line on the gun or long on the gun target line. Check your MVVs, make sure your powder temps are good, check your database. And then afterwards, the FDC guys would be like, hey, how do you know all this stuff? I was like, because I already did your job. And, I was
Yeah.
pretty good at it. I mean, I was a corporal FDC chief for a Paladin battery just because of the way that I was. I'd already won Soldier of the Year at Fort Sill as a PFC. I'd gotten Track Driver of the Year as a PV2 here at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, which was my first duty station. And, I really took that to heart and was like, hey, man, like I want to be the best fire supporter that I could. And so the transition really wasn't that difficult for me. I think for some it probably is. Just for me, it really wasn't at the time.
Our Fox in Afghanistan, his name was Trevor Tibaldi, and I can tell you that there was a lot of times where he definitely saved us in firefights, and he was definitely the heart of the operation a lot of times. So when we left Afghanistan, he made the comment that he wasn't really looking forward to promoting to staff sergeant because he knew he was going to end up in a staff position, and I have a feeling that that's one of the reasons why he ended up walking away from the military. He probably should have followed the career path you did and ended up going a warrant. However, he ended up walking away from the military.
Yeah, I think a lot of good people did during that time, right? Especially after all the multiple deployments and all that stuff. I saw plenty of great guys did their time and then end up getting out and then sometimes questioning their reasoning behind getting out of the military. And I was like, hey, brother, man, you did your time. You can't doubt that at all. And I've seen, I think, fire supporters just because of the typical alpha mentality of, hey, man, let's go, let's get this stuff done. To me, it was always just trying to make somebody else's job easier, right? As a targeting officer, that's what I do too.
Right.
Try to make sure that the maneuver elements can go out there and do what you got to do. So you have to, in time and space, right target at the right time with the right munitions to get the right effects to allow maneuver to do maneuver things and kill people. Unfortunately, right? I mean, that's the job that we have to do.
Absolutely.
Hey, Chief. So, can you tell me, like, how was your experience as an enlisted soldier, as if it changed from enlisted to warrant, being deployed? Do you feel like you're able to affect change more as an enlisted soldier, or definitely as a chief?
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot by those our W1s out there, and even some senior non-commissioned officers. I mean, my deployments, started in 2002 as a sergeant. I got stuck working at a JTF headquarters, and then 2003 another JTF headquarters during the invasion into Iraq as a staff sergeant. Baghdad, and then Afghanistan, and then Iraq again. So my experiences as an enlisted guy working at the JTF, working with generals at the time, senior officers at those at that senior echelon, I think it was good for me. And I think I had a little bit of influence, right? I try to tell some staff sergeants, just like what you said, Joseph, like, yeah, you are a staff sergeant, you're a staff NCO, right? That's what you do. But as a warrant officer, you know what you are? You're a staff officer, brother. Like, you're only doing targeting officer stuff, maybe 5% of your career, right? The rest of that time is what does the boss need us to do? Where can we identify gaps within those staffs or those weaknesses in those staffs and try to help mentor those lieutenants, those captains, those field grade officers at times, and just benefit the staff. So my deployments as a warrant officer was that much more at echelon, right? Working at a combined joint forces land component command in 2016, 2017, literally briefing a 2-star, 5 1-stars, a couple of colonels, and a couple of majors nightly on, targets that we need to get executed to help facilitate, the Iraqis out there on the battlefield and our, those brigades that were out there supporting those guys. And, when somebody talks to that general, then he looks over and 4 warrant officers are going, yeah, sir, you're good to go. That sounds good to us. And he's like, yeah, roger that, chief. I got you. He's like, all right, go ahead and execute it. And everybody else was like, why do they always look at you guys? And we're like, well, I don't know. Like, that's just what they do. They feel comfortable doing that. So I think your sphere of influence is huge. My aha moment as a warrant officer was when that same general became the vice chief of staff of the army. And I got a phone call on a Saturday morning and said, hey, chief, you got 30 minutes of your time. I was like, hey, what's going on, sir? weird that the vice chief of staff of the army sent me a message and wanted to talk about something. He was like, we're getting ready to come up with this thing. It's called This Is My Squad. And I want to hear your thoughts about it. I was like, okay, sir. And I gave him like 30 minutes of my time. And he was like, man, truly appreciate it. And then a couple weeks later, they rolled out with This Is My Squad. And it was a huge initiative that, got a little backing and all that stuff. And it was great to be a part of that and be able to say, hey, look, people listen. And all you gotta do is be a good person, right? Like, be a human being. They all put their pants on the same way we do, and as long as you're competent, then they will have confidence in your competence, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes total sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got to I had a unique opportunity in 2015 to sit down with a sergeant major of the army, so kind of on the same opportunity as what you had, and during that conversation, sergeant major of the army had an opportunity to speak to me about the promotion system, and we talked about the whole future of the step program, and so kind of along the same lines of getting to discuss the future plans of the army and things like that. So it's nice whenever a senior leader talks to you about what's up and coming in the future and how
Yeah.
it's going to impact the army. At that same conversation, I got to talk to him about the ACFT because that was prior to the ACFT being fielded and how that was going to impact soldiers. Prior to that, there wasn't going to be any permanent profiles during that
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah, I
So
remember.
so it's nice whenever you can have those conversations with those senior leaders and kind of get an in-depth look into what the future looks like.
Yeah, and just makes you realize that, they do listen. Some guys do at times, sometimes they don't, and that's okay. Like, leaders make decisions, and those
Yeah.
commanders out there are the ones making decisions. I've had those conversations with warrant officers being like, man, dude, my commander doesn't ever listen to me. He always does the opposite. I'm like, that's okay. I said, we're here to make the best recommendations that we can, but they're the commanders out there, right? They're the ones that make those decisions. They're the ones that assume the risk, if they're willing to do that, then they're willing to do that. And sometimes you're right, and sometimes you're wrong, and that's okay. Like, as long as somebody learns something from those decisions, regardless of the recommendations that somebody makes or provides that influence to somebody, man, it's huge. I
Yeah.
think that means a lot to people.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel? Like obviously you've got a pretty long history of deployments throughout your time deploying from 2002 to 2019. How do you feel that you saw your deployments change through that timeline?
Well, I think the operational environment changed quite a bit, right? Like, we went in there initially in Afghanistan, like 6 months after 9/11, something like that. And, we were out there hunting. We were out there trying to get some payback, right? I think everybody wanted payback at that time. And, very loose on the rules of engagement, restrictions that were in place, so on and so forth. And we were constantly moving and fighting. Whereas, like, my last deployment working at, operational headquarters at Resolute Support in Afghanistan in 2019 with General Miller, it was at times it was very restrictive, right? We all know that we're trying to do, individual targeting type things, going after networks and trying to get those different personalities, whether it be lethal or non-lethal means. The environment's changed back and forth so many times between, like, Afghanistan and Iraq. When we saw the influx into Iraq and the buildup into Iraq, and then sort of Afghanistan sort of got forgotten about, right? Like, and then things started heating up in Afghanistan. Then we shifted again, going back and forth, and the different tactics that our adversaries were utilizing on us and changing how we were fighting and trying to adapt and, overcome all the IEDs and everything like that. We saw technology change, like, at a rabbit's pace, right? Like, very quick. And I think we had to adjust our mentality of what exactly we were trying to do, what we were trying to affect, and how we were affecting it, if that makes sense. Like, we did see, and I hate to say this, man, like, a lot of times, like, senior level leaders equate success to, like, the measures of performance, right? Like, how many targets did we execute today? How many bombs were dropped today? And you can drop all the bombs in the world and not affect a damn thing. Or you can understand that operational environment a little bit better, be precise with what effects you're trying to achieve, and probably get more bang for your buck. But a lot of times it's a matter of how many bullets are being fired or how many bombs are being dropped, where we equated to us being successful or not out there in those battlefields that we fought.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Chief. So you are the new, or you've been around for a while, so not the new, but the senior instructor of the Field Artillery Warrant Officer Canada School. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was an instructor at the Warrant Officer Instruction Branch here at Fort Sill for a little while, and took over and ran the schoolhouse for about a year and a half as a CW4. So it was totally great experience.
Yeah, that's got to be an amazing achievement.
Yeah, I would tell you it was probably one of the most rewarding jobs I think a person could have. The weird thing is that I was thinking about that today when I read that question. I was like, man, my first non-operational assignment was at 24 years in the Army. And that was when the chief warrant officer of the branch asked me to come to the schoolhouse to instruct. And guys had known that I wanted to go back to the schoolhouse and try to return to the force a little bit. And I was super excited when I got that phone call. We were short-handed at the time at the schoolhouse. I think there was only four of us total, but those four guys, including the course manager at the time, we made a lot of things happen, right? And it was the right guys, I think, at the right time to help influence and mentor, those hundreds of students that came through during that period. A lot of guys laughed and was like, he said, "Here we go. Now we're going to have a whole bunch of little Mike Riders running around the army, as warrant officers." And I was like, "Dude, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?" Because at times I didn't know the difference, right? I mean, I've been known to fly off the cuff a couple times and be too blunt to some leaders out there, but that's okay. That's me. That's how I am as a person. I can't change that. But it was truly a humble experience, man. I was able to stay at the schoolhouse for about 3.5 years total. I instructed one warrant officer basic course and then six warrant officer advanced courses. And I, took over as the course manager. And it was truly humbling to see these guys, these ladies and men wanting to go out there and do what we do and be still eager to learn and to want to learn and pick your brain about certain things and the reach back capability that they have and the phone calls that I still get and emails saying, "Hey, look, man, can you look over this product and see if it makes sense to you? This is what my commander is saying. What should I say to him? To try to not sound like a dummy or, maybe not sound too smart, right? Because a lot of times, I'd be the smartest dumb guy in the room or the dumbest smart guy in the room. Either way, how you look at it, But it was a great experience, man. I loved being an instructor and being at the schoolhouse.
And, one of my biggest issues that I got with the Army in general is I feel like talent management goes by the wayside, but I'm glad to see that they got it right with you, and because we speak about talent management so much, and I feel like that it still falls into the category of it's just a number. Hey, we need somebody over here. Here, this number looks good. Let's go ahead and place them. And then you hope for the best,
Yeah.
and I understand that it would take forever to actually look at and put people in the right places. But for you to go up there, be the senior instructor, have the right team and everything, I think that the Army got it right, and which is exceptional, because then the product that you produced after that is absolutely amazing, and then the Army's over there getting all the accolades out of it because then you're producing chief writers all over the Army, but then they're out here like, "Hey, look, we got it right." And it's all like, "Yeah, but look at what it's going to do for you for the years to come." And then those individuals that you went ahead and actually pushed all your leadership skills and everything else onto, how they're going to affect change down the road, because we should have a bunch of chief writers out here, doing it right for 3 decades. That's just the way I look at it, Chief.
Yeah, I truly appreciate that. For the Army, I hope it's a good thing. That's all I could say, right? Like, I think we did get it right at that time with personalities that we had at the schoolhouse. As a great group of guys, man. My hat's off to all those dudes because we were putting in, 16 hours a day because it doesn't stop when you leave the schoolhouse. You're reading papers, you're writing evaluations, you're you're trying to talk to others about, hey, where should this guy go? Like, should he go back to the 82nd, or does he need to see, the heavy aspect of the army a little bit? And that's what we worked with the branch manager hand in hand with, trying to pick guys to the right assignments to benefit their careers in the future, to get them a little bit more well balanced across the spectrum of operations.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. And speaking of writing papers, you have several articles published in the actual Fires Journal and Military Professional Bulletin, correct?
Yeah, I had a couple of papers published
Oh,
back in
you
the
might
day.
as well tell us about it, Chief. Might as well tell us about it.
Uh, yeah, my first paper I did as a CW2. I was with 173rd. It was my first assignment, or yeah, my first assignment as a warrant officer, and we had deployed to Afghanistan in Lomgar and Wardite provinces, right south of Kabul, and I had a Q-36 radar system that I was, trained on to maintain and fixing and stuff like that. But I had a great 94 rank maintainer, good radar section chief. So they took care of that radar system. That was nothing. That was easy. And then we had about 17 LCMRs, or lightweight counter mortar radars at the time, out and about at different fobs and cops and stuff like that. And so I started going out and seeing these systems and seeing how they worked. And 90% of the time they weren't even set up. They were like, oh yeah, we're 17 and 17. These things are all good to go. And I'd go out to a cop out there in the middle of nowhere, and this thing was still packed up in its boxes. And I was like, oh man, dude, we got issues. I was like, how can we try to determine where, the enemy is out there shooting mortars and rockets at, if these radar systems are not in place? So I had to figure out a way how to train non-13 series guys. A lot of guys were like cooks or commo guys, 13 foxes that stood up and been like, hey man, train me on this system. I'll make sure it's set up and we'll get these systems working. And that took me about 3 months to do, going out from site to site to site to site, running back and forth to Bagram Airfield, trying to get systems placed, trying to get guys to come out to train these guys, send guys back to Bagram for training, and then back into, their cops or respected areas and employ these systems. And so, I wrote about it. I was like, hey man, like back in the day, we all heard of pattern analysis, and we know that, our adversaries like to shoot rockets at about the same time every day. And so one time it was spot on. I had in place a system. We had just established a new combat operation post at the time, and we were sitting on the roof, and you could see these 107s just coming in. And I got tired of it. And I was like, hey, check it out, man. Next day, we had those guns laid on those historical poo sites, and we shot before they had shot the previous day. And so it stopped them. It stopped them from shooting. And we kept on doing that at every single location that we went to. And, I felt like I needed to get it out there and write about it, and how to train guys on these systems that were non-artillery specific, and to benefit the organization and just the operations out there, by trying to employ those capabilities that we had at the time to try to protect the force, and do what we can to target the
And see, and I
enemy.
really like that because I think that a lot of leaders nowadays they forget about the call center, and they don't go back and look. It's always like, okay, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and I see it this way, or I'm gonna adjust this way, but they don't ever be like, hey, somebody's already done this, and you can go to the centers of Army's lessons learned. You can pull actual files. You can see how people have done it before you, and then you can use that as a base and then develop your own plan off of it, and that way you're not reinventing the wheel, so I greatly appreciate that because that you look at something and you're like, hey, this could help out somebody else, but hey, yet again, you're also chief writer, so you're already 10 steps ahead of everybody, and making things happen, so we appreciate it, we do.
Yeah, there's a
Uh,
reason why you're advising generals, not just
Hey, that's the
the
truth. That's the
the
truth.
average scrub on the street.
Yeah, I think that just comes with the right place at the right time. Or a lot of guys used to say, with all our deployments that we have, either be at the right place at the wrong time, or the wrong place at the right time. And that's just how it panned out, right? That's why I had all those back to back to back deployments, so on and so forth. Guys were always like, dude, do you volunteer for these things? And I'm like, no. I said, but right now I'm single, and it's easy for me to pack up. If I can go instead of somebody else that's married and has kids and stuff like that, then why not? I'll go out there and do what I'm trying to do, and try to keep somebody else from going out there and doing it. then, the second article I wrote, it was about being a field artillery intelligence officer. And, at the time, a lot of things were written in doctrine. And so we had established a good thing, good process during our warfighter. And, I wrote about that as well. And when I got to the schoolhouse, we were actually updating that period of instruction for what we were teaching students. I was like, use my article and let's write this instruction on, how I did it, and let the guys figure out different ways of doing it with the new systems that are in place and so on and so forth. Guys out there now are just crushing it, man, making me look like a dummy. Sorry, but I mean, I am a dummy at times, right? Like I was over Merc chat just picking a fire mission. This is the target location. This is what it is. And now they all have all these different systems, Maven smart systems, so on and so forth, that are just making that process that much easier. And it's amazing to see. And I still try to talk to those guys. Hey, man, teach me something. What are you guys are learning? Because I'm gonna learn from me now. Whereas hopefully you learned something from me previously.
Yeah, but you're the baseline. It's not that you're a dummy, you're the baseline of everything that has happened currently. So yeah, they're doing things faster than us and they're making things, like a lot quicker. They're using technology the way that we couldn't imagine, but
Yeah.
the fundamentals came from Chief, and
Yeah.
that's some things that the soldiers recognize to this day, because you got to think we're doing the same thing that our leaders were doing when they taught us. They were the baseline. And then we're running out there and making a lot of different things happen. And they're over there like, hey, 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 we appreciate you, but I don't know how you're doing this. Like, I mean,
Well,
I'm pretty sure that a sergeant major looked at me and was all like, hey, how we use this plugger?
mm,
And it's all like, hey, I got you, sergeant major. I got you. So I would agree that we feel like we're subpar nowadays, especially in our elements, but we're the baseline for everything that's currently happening. And those young soldiers that are making things happen a lot faster make it easier for us to sit back and be like, hey, I helped out with that. I'm a part of that. So
yeah.
you're not a dummy, Chief. You made it happen. You're an extraordinary leader.
See, Chief, I equate it to digital versus degraded. Those digital systems are super high speed, right? But as soon as those digital systems start having hiccups, they gotta revert back to degraded operations. But
Yep.
we train on degraded operations before we go to digital operations. So our sections have to be proficient at degraded operations before digital operations. We saw in the first General Odierno best red leg competition, the sections that did the best came out there and they were highly proficient at degraded operations.
Yeah.
There were sections that came out there that were not highly proficient at degraded operations and they didn't do as well. Had they come out and they were proficient at degraded operations, they would have, hands down, they would have swept the competition. Those degraded operations are the baseline of everything. So without having a baseline to run off of, you have nothing. So it's just one of those things,
Yeah,
just like
I completely agree with that. Back to the basics, right? I think that the way the technology is moving and so on and so forth, I think there's a little over reliance on it, and it's probably going to bite us in the butt a little bit later on because people will forget the basics. They'll forget how to read a map because they can point a mouse to it and automatically reads it on the screen. No, no, no. Is it left up or right up? I mean, how do you read a map? And guys are like, what? I'm like, what's an 8-digit grid? How do you get to an 8-digit grid? Like they're forgetting those basic things already.
Well, I'm also glad that the Army is still producing GTAs,
Oh yeah.
and that way that, but soldiers don't know where to pick them up at, and that's something that we as leaders that are, at our ending stages and everything need to be showing the young troops, like, hey, here's where you can go get a GTA at, and then just keep it in your back pocket because you never know when you need it, just little things like that really, really is some things that I appreciate that Army's still pushing as an analog version of everything that is currently going digital.
so. Chief, I believe that what you've done in the warrant officer community has definitely changed careers for lots of people, and you've definitely laid the groundwork for a lot of field artillery men and women throughout the warrant officer community. But what I'd like to know is, what does the future look like for a Mike Ryder now? Like, what does civilian life look like for you? Are you looking to reconnect with yourself, with friends, with family? So what's the next step looking like for Mike Ryder now?
Well, currently, I think really, a lot of guys are like, you need to take time to yourself and to your family. So definitely gonna do that. I think I have some road trips and some moving that's probably gonna happen. And then I was looking at for work, right? Because I want to be 50 years old when I retire next year. And yeah, I may be retiring from the army, but I'm not gonna be retired. I'm not gonna just sit there and let's go to the golf course and golf. First off, I don't golf, which is weird. A lot of warrant officers are like, "You don't golf?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." Been asked if I wanted to golf for years, so I just never really picked it up. But, I looked at something the other day, it sort of caught my eye, and there's a lot of positions out there that are open, for junior ROTC, and I was looking at maybe becoming a junior ROTC instructor, and, somebody laughed at that the other day, and I was like, "Well, you?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I think I could handle some high schoolers." They're like, "Yeah, you probably need to watch your mouth every once in a while and not go off the cuff because remember they are kids, and yeah, you've probably been dealing with young men and women for the last 30 years and trying to do that, but I really love the mentorship role. I really like talking to people about personal and professional growth because I personally my life has been upside down. Yeah, it may look successful and I've had a great military career, but I think that all came at a personal cost.
Yeah.
3 marriages, a bankruptcy, 3 divorces, suicide thoughts, attempts, addiction. I've been there and done it. Like loss of self identity. When I broke my leg when I was with the 173rd, I was like, dude, my career is done. I've been a paratrooper the last 13 years, and now what am I gonna do? I'm not gonna be able to jump no more. So I sat there and drank a lot and popped painkillers a lot because that's all I could do, and like wept in my sorrows. So if I could try to influence guys to, maybe experience some of the same things that I had in life, but experience that professional and personal growth too, right? Because that comes as we mature and as we become older and be like, man, dude, like I couldn't think of the stupid things that I did when I was 20 years old. And I knew there's plenty of them before that. But now that I look back at it and was like, it was a learning experience. It was a great fun times and I truly loved it. Man, I'm truly gonna miss the army. I'm gonna miss the brotherhood. So I have to be able to give back somehow, which goes into one of your other questions, right? Joining the VFW. Yeah, I'm definitely
Yeah.
going to do that and definitely get involved with veterans communities, veteran centers, and hospitals, wherever I live at, whether it be here in Oklahoma or in the near future, maybe Florida, because I think that's where the family unit is gonna be, and we're all gonna go out to Florida. So I can enjoy being closer to ports, so we can go out there and cruise together, and go on cruises, man. I've had a great blast the last cruises I've been on, and it's just a good fun time to relax with everybody and get in a different environment where you don't have to worry about everything. Like
Yeah.
drinks are there, food's there, and we could just have a good time and do what you got to do and enjoy your time with those that you love.
Yeah.
Because I think we all laid our lives on the line to do it. And I want to do some traveling and see some of the sites that I haven't seen. I haven't been to, Washington. I haven't been to the 9/11 site, memorial site that's out there on the East Coast, and I'd love to go see that and realize the truth behind everything that we have fought and laid our lives on the line for. Go to Mount Rushmore and go see some of those historical sites that makes this country great because it is great. And so I want to enjoy it while I can as
Yeah.
much as
Absolutely.
possible.
Yeah, you should think about coming out to do the ruck and run with us in November. We're gonna go out and we're gonna join our last guest that we had, George Fuller. We're gonna go out in November, do ruck and run, so we could turn it into a Black Sheep Nation thing and get all our guests to go out to ruck and run and
Oh
do
yeah,
it
Be
for a good
amazing.
cause.
where's
Yeah,
that going
man.
to be at?
Missouri,
Yeah, we're gonna go out to Missouri and do the
Really?
ruck and
That's
run.
not. I mean,
Yeah,
that's not too far from here. Like
about about a
I haven't
6 hour
worn
drive.
been West Pack in a long time. My stuff's ready to turn in actually, but
that's all right. There's always leftovers.
I think there is, right? Like, I think I've got a personal Alice that's stuck in one of my tough boxes that I have somewhere.
Yeah,
I think that could be a good experience too, right? Suck a little bit with people because I think that's what brings us close at times, right? Going through that physical, sometimes emotional, significant event that brings guys together. and just enjoy each other's company. I think that that'd be awesome to do.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And
we'll get
we'll
her.
keep you updated on it, you know, and as it gets closer, but it'd be amazing to have you out there.
Yeah, we'll get around the fire pit, and we'll all share some stories, and we'll walk about and enjoy the ruck and run.
Maybe
Yeah,
we
for
could do a
sure.
live podcast there.
Hey, that sounds
I
like a
appreciate the
perfect
able to
opportunity to do it.
just get on those cameras as you're walking. Yeah, what up?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chief, hey, thank you for being with us today, sharing your story with us. You have any final thoughts, or any favorite books, movies, or anything that you want to recommend to our viewers?
I'm a fan favorite of Restrepo. That was a great movie or docu-series or documentary on, some of the brothers with Sky Soldiers, the 173rd. Same time that like Junto had gotten his Medal of Honor and so on and so forth. Just a good movie that shows the reality of what some of those young guys were going through at the time. And then, I've been reading a lot of books that Pete Hegseth has written and stuff like that. And just to get his purview prior to him becoming the Secretary of War. So I've read some of those books, stuff like that. Some is interesting, some is mildly interesting. It gets me to think of why he thinks the way he does or says some of the things that he does. But I mean, that's really about it, man. I really appreciate the time. It's been an honor, gentlemen, to sit here and chat with you guys and to share just a little bit of so many experiences that I had throughout my career, and truly thank you so much for the invite and for allowing me to do this.
Thank you for coming. It was definitely an honor to have you out here, and truly, it was an honor to be able to serve alongside with you over at First of the 30th. Truly, it was definitely an honor.
For
If you
sure.
want to know any more about Chief, you can just Google him, literally.
Yeah, he's all over Google.
Ian,
Absolutely amazing leadership. We appreciate you greatly, and this has been an honor of mine to be able to sit here and speak with you, Chief.
yeah, thanks a lot, James, man. I truly appreciate it. As I tell everybody, right? Don't call me Chief, call me Mike or Michael, right? That's what I go by. And people always question that. They're always like, well, why do you always say that to people, even guys that are subordinate to you? I said, because at that point in time, I don't care what this is, right? You have to respect the rank because that's how the United States military rank structure works. But it takes me as a person to earn your respect. And when I say you call me Mike or Michael, I'm now establishing a personal relationship with you, and I have to earn your respect. That's why I always do that to people. And they look at me crazy, but like even when I'm private, I'm like, "Hey, private, go ahead and call me Michael, Michael," and they're like, "Whoa, what?" And I NCOs are losing their mind in the background.
Right.
But it's funny to say, and then I explain it to them, and they're like, "Oh, that sort of makes sense, right?"
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I truly appreciate it.
No worries at all. We hope to see you out there too. That'd be amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just send me an invite, brother. I'll try to make it.
Okay.
awesome.
All right, cool.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, our next guest will be a change of pace from our typical service members. For our fourth guest, we plan on bringing on a guest that has worked with everyone from privates to generals, from command sergeants, major to warrant officers, and everyone in between. We're referring to the beloved barber from right outside the 101st gates. That is Greg the barber from Greg's Barbershop. Greg has been a staple in the 101st community for years and has worked with service members dealing with trauma from combat, dealing with success and failures. So his take on military service is very unique, and we very much look forward to speaking with him. Before we step off, I definitely want to give a shout out to Divine Lighting and Fabrication for this amazing Black Sheep logo you see behind me. Pretty amazing. So definitely want to give them a shout out for this gift that they gave us that you'll see in our podcast from here on out. Also want to give out a shout out to millconnect.ai. So if you're a service member, check them out. They have some pretty amazing stuff that they're doing for service members. So check them out. And before we take off, as usual, here's a few final thoughts from us. Number one, don't take criticism from someone that you wouldn't go to for advice. I'll say that again. Don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't go to for advice. Chief is a perfect example for that. Number two, the right person will make you fall in love with yourself too. I'm going to read that one again. The right person will make you fall in love with yourself again. All right. Lastly, the truth sounds like hate to those who hate the truth. The
Oh,
truth stings. It's not always what you want to hear. Sometimes it's what you need to hear. Hey, we are the Black Sheep Podcast. And as always, We'll continue to be here until Helen Keller shoots 40 out of 40, baby. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope to see you again next time with Greg the Barber.